And joining me now with his take is former chief of the Milwaukee Police Department, Ed Flynn. All right, good evening, Flynn. Your take on what's going on in Atlanta. I mean, obviously, we don't have everything. We don't know everything yet. But this certainly is not a good thing to happen at this time.
Well, certainly it's a challenge evaluating what actually happened. I think before your program started, you saw one of the disadvantages under which city officials labor. You know, a plaintiff attorney can command national attention and have basically a half an hour of unfiltered access to a vast audience, laying his case before the public, while the city is put in the position of actually having to do a methodical investigation that will or will not support a criminal charge. So I think all of us, to some extent, are prisoners of the 24-hour news cycle, which really seems to speed up events and really retard the ability of decision makers to make sound decisions based on what they really know about what's occurring. What I can say about Atlanta is that Chief Shields was one of the most progressive, admired, and respected police chiefs in America. I'm very sorry to see her resign. She was absolutely working with that police department to improve its services, to improve its relations with the community, and she was highly respected in the major city chiefs organization. So I think it's a loss to Atlanta.
I understand that as well.
Certainly lost the profession.
Yep. I don't have a lot of time, but I want to get to one issue with you. Look, you started as a cop in New Jersey, a police chief in Milwaukee. You were in Arlington, Virginia. You were there when the 9/11, when the plane hit the Pentagon. I mean, you've got a lot of experience all over this country. When you hear people say things like, when the police show up with their Kevlar and their flak jackets and all that, it makes us angry and it makes us feel like we have to fight back when they come into our neighborhoods looking like that. What do you have to say to people who have that mentality?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to talk to people who've made up their minds. We on the side of the police have to rely on our professionalism, our discipline, our idealism, our courage and our restraint to manage crowds, because we are placed in the position of protecting life, protecting constitutional rights, and protecting property, pretty much in that order. And the fact of the matter is, our discipline and restraint is never more important than when we're the objects of the disaffection. So I would like to take a moment and, compliment America's city police. I think they're doing a heck of a job maintaining that restraint under extraordinary times, and I happen to know they're exhausted. I think America has a stake in the morale of our officers, and it is very, very difficult to see a profession that spends almost all of its time providing essential social services to disadvantaged communities being demonized, delegitimized, and generalized about, and basically accusing these idealistic men and women of being racist and brutes. That does no one good, because the need for the police has not abated.
Okay, the need for the police has not abated. You were chief in Milwaukee for 11 years. Now, if not longer, but when you went into the inner city, when your officers went there, was there a special training that they had? Was there a resistance to going there? Is it like the south side of Chicago where, people are just going to get shot, every weekend? I mean, how did your officers take going into the inner city? Did they think it was dangerous for them?
The police officers in our city that were in the most dangerous high crime neighborhoods were there because the people who actually live in them wanted them there. The highest rate of calls for assistance for the police was in the disadvantaged communities of Milwaukee. They're the ones suffering the violence. They're the ones where the gunshot detectors go off 100 times a night. They're the ones whose children are shot on the way to school and in playgrounds. I mean, the gap between, the official angry people that take on to the streets and monopolize the microphones versus the people whose daily lives are impacted by violence is stunning. But people in those neighborhoods are not going to step out or contradict their self-styled activist leaders. They've got to live there every day. But they want their cops. They work with their cops. I've never gone to a community meeting where they asked for fewer cops. But unfortunately, given the times we live in, any captured video or evidence of police misconduct, that goes on to become part of the ongoing wars to seize, political ground. And police are basically the straw men right now for a lot of unresolved social issues.
All right. Chief Ed Flynn, it's so good to have you on Justice. I hope you'll come back.